Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another video. This time we're finally getting into a set 8 brew. About a little over a week until set 8 drops, and we're finally getting into some decks for you guys. Now obviously what you see on screen is not a deck. These are just some talking points I want to make before I get into the actual profile. But before we get into the video, guys, new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you never miss a video. Want to get involved in the Dragon Ball Super community, make sure to check out the Discord in the description below. Finally, guys, 3 ways you can help the channel out. Number 1, Patreon in the description below. Lots of competitive content for you. Number 2, want to pre-order your set 8 stuff or buy anything you see on screen. Make sure to use my link to TCG Player or Beerus Collectibles in the description below. Finally, guys, YouTube channel memberships, join button down below. All that stuff helps me out a lot. Helps me keep bringing you guys this content. With that being said, we will get right into this discussion. So we're doing Beerus for the first set 8 brew. Now, Sandy Cater, I see you out there in the comments. I see you spreading that Beerus hype. I see you saying that Beerus is OP. I don't know if the build I'm going to show you guys is the same as Sandy's. Maybe you can catch him on untap. I don't know. But I do believe Beerus is a very strong leader coming out of set 8. We'll give him a quick read. Activate main once per turn. Choose 1 red or yellow battle card, from your hand and place in the drop area. Draw 2. On awaken, he untaps 2. Now the backside is very interesting. Activate main once per turn. Pay a red and a yellow. Choose one of your opponent's battle cards and KO it. Doesn't care what cost it is, as long as it doesn't have barrier, it's getting KO'd. And activate battle once per turn. Choose 1 red yellow multicolor card in your drop area and combo with it. So again, a leader that does not draw on the backside. We saw what happened with Toa. It was very, very polarizing, very dominating for 1 or 2 or even maybe 3 formats, depending on how you look at it. But again, like, the fact that it doesn't draw on the backside, not a huge detriment, especially when the front side has so much draw power. Now I have this all pulled up here to show you guys kind of the archetype that was made for this leader, but I don't think it works out well. I think this is much better suited for the Bulma version of this deck. Now of course we got red yellow as basically an archetype in set 8. Bulma and Beerus are the 2 different leaders you can use with this. But if we give a quick read to a few things, so Son Goku, Path to Godhood, for example, activate main, place this card in the owner's drop area, then choose a Gohan, Goten, Vegeta, Trunks, and Videl in your drop area, return them to your deck, then you get to play Son Goku, Dawn, or Divinity from your deck, right? So theoretically your leader does pitch to draw cards, so you could end up with all these cards in your drop area. But if we look at a few of them, for example, Super Saiyan Vegeta, Raging Frenzy, auto if your leader card's red when a Bulma card in your battle area is removed from your battle area by an opponent's skill or KO'd, you can play this card. So this card essentially dead in Beerus because Beerus doesn't make your Bulma's blockers like the Bulma leader does. So this card essentially dead. Then we have a card like Son Goten rushing in. Just a 1-drop with Revenge. Doesn't really do anything unless you have Bulma to turn it into a blocker. So that's pretty unfortunate. Videl, I suppose you could splash. Actually, no, it only works if your leader card's a Bulma, so never mind on that. And then this Gohan is pretty lackluster on its own. This Trunks you could play in Beerus, but that's like 1.5 cards out of this like 5-6 card engine that is playable in this archetype. So with that being said, the archetype they made for this deck doesn't work too well in the deck itself. So me and one of my patrons, actually, shout out to you, Novin, we got to working on a Beerus archetype because he really wanted to play Beerus. It's just something he's looking forward to. He likes to draw power, likes the character, so we started working on this for him. So this is a much lower to the ground build of Beerus that just tries to beat face. It is an aggro deck, but it can pivot pretty well into mid-range. So we'll get right into the profile. We've got 4 Whis Godly Fundamentals. Sorry guys, I might have caused a bit of a buyout for these in foil. They were sitting at $1 a piece and I just could not understand why. If you're going to play Beerus, which in my opinion is a very powerful strategy going into set 8, you're going to need these Whis, and the foils were way too cheap to pass up on. So hopefully you guys got them in time. So this guy says if he's in your drop area, you warp him to either, you can take a life, which is optional, you don't have to take the life, and you can minus 5,000 one of your opponent's battle cards. Both skills are up to 1, so it's a super flexible card. You need this to play Beerus. Really, really important just for self-awakening purposes. Then we have 4 Bulma Unyielding Courage. So auto, when you play this card, draw 1, activate main once per turn. You can pay a colorless to choose a red or yellow sand in your drop area with energy cost of 1, negate its skills for duration of the turn, play it, then mill 2. Not really relevant at all in this deck for the most part. The fact that it is a 1-drop Bulma, though, is relevant as we get a little later into the deck profile. 2 Denial of Hope, strong control card. This was originally After Image, but we kind of just realized that After Image wasn't really necessary in the deck, especially when you have Topo Righteous Aid. This card is almost just a better negate in all circumstances, and a lot of times you can leave up 2 red. You know, if you're establishing a board early, you can afford to leave energy open because you still have pressure applied to your opponent. So really solid there. Denial, of course, insanely strong counterplay, probably the best counterplay extra card that currently exists in the game. For Familial Bonds, this is a low to the ground red aggro spam deck. We'll go over the targets as we get there, but as you guys remember, this card allows you to play a 3 cost or less, 15k or less red sand from your drop area if your leader is red. So basically you're cheating things in for 1 less than they cost. We did experiment with playing 2 to 3 copies of 4-star ball on the deck, but they kind of just got clunky. You draw them at the wrong times. You don't really want to charge them. Beerus draws so much that you don't really need it. Beerus biding his time at a 3 of. This is a crit permanent. Only 1 can be played in your battle area, which is the main reason why we run 3. You don't want to really clog on this guy. And if you have a red yellow multicolor card in your energy, reduce energy cost of this card in your hand by 2. So a 1-drop 15k crit is exactly what we want for this type of deck. And the fact that it gets around things like Striving Goku, even better. SS3 Goku 1-hit wonder. This card is incredible. When your opponent's battle card's power is decreased, if this card's not in play in your battle area, you can play it. And activate battle, pay a red, send this card from your drop area to your warp, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, and it gets minus 5,000 power for the duration of the battle. So you can basically pitch one of these, use the ability in the drop area, and then play another one. There's also other ways in the deck you can play it if you did decide to main After Image, but there's also one more way you can play it, which we'll get to in just a bit. 3 Digging Deep, one of the strongest targets you can pull off of Familial Bonds. A turn 2 Familial Bonds into Digging Deep is one of the strongest aggressive plays you can make, especially against a deck like Shenron, where they hate aggro and they hate cards like Digging Deep and Source of Power. So being able to drop that on turn 2 is absolutely broken. And if you can drop this on turn 2, or any turn really, turn 3 particularly, swing with it, take the 2 life, awaken, untap 2, then you have another Familial Bonds ready to go. Then you can go into your Fearless Pan, which is just basically the top end of this deck. This is pretty much the win condition. Of course, it synergizes with Familial Bonds. Of course, it synergizes with Beerus because you can pitch it and revive it later, which is super good. Just gives everything double strike on your board that is red, including your leader. Your leader also, with the free 10k combo return, that is essentially a 30k swing on a leader without even wasting a single card. That's insane. Topo, we talked about it, but again, boosting it with Fearless Pan just is so daunting on your opponent. You just negate their turn. You basically tell them you have to pass, and then you Fearless Pan it, swing with it. It's a 25k double strike. They can't really do much about it, to be honest. Vegeta, Prideful Hero. So in terms of this deck, and maybe in the game in general, this is probably one of the most easily splashable heroic cards. The heroic cards are kind of weird because they are all different colors and they all kind of play off of each other. So using their heroic ability is kind of tough sometimes, but let's read what he says. So heroic says, when you play a battle card or use an extra card skill that has heroic on it, draw 1, then negate the skill for the duration of the turn. So this has to already be on board, and then you have to play another heroic card in order to proc that. Activate main, choose a red Bulma card in your battle area and place it at the bottom of the owner's deck. Play this card from your hand, then choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, and it gets minus 10,000 power, and you cannot play another one of these guys for the duration of the turn. The fact that it only stops you from playing it for the duration of the turn means you can just spam this turn after turn after turn, depending on how many Bulmas you have and how many Vegetas you have in your hand, which is why we play 4 and 4. That's really strong. There's also a way to proc your SS3 Goku 1-hit wonder. He minus 10,000s, even ignoring barrier. So as long as your opponent has any battle card on the board, you get the free play of the 1-hit wonder. So think about like a turn 2, you play Bulma. A turn 3, you play Digging Deep, take 2 life, awaken, play the Fearless Pan, or before you play the Fearless Pan, you play the Vegeta Prideful Hero, minus 10,000 something, bring out the SS3 Goku 1-hit wonder, then you Fearless Pan. So that's your leader with double strike, a Digging Deep with double strike, possibly a Topo with double strike, a Vegeta and a Goku. It's just so insane. This is like one of the most powerful Fearless Pan decks I've ever seen in this game. Elegant Assistant, Hellas, super combo for a God Leader. It's pretty busted, not much to say there. We's the Spectator, the red yellow, and the Beerus No Holds Barred. Again, this is where the deck can kind of pivot to mid-range because of a card like this. So this is probably one of the most powerful rivals in the game. A rival red yellow, energy exhaust. When you play this card, choose 1. Choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with 30,000 or less power and KO it, so you have that defensive control there. Choose up to one of your opponent's leader cards or battle cards in rest mode, ignoring barrier, and that card can't be switched to active mode until the start of your next main phase. So this card essentially shuts off Shenron decks, although you should already destroy Shenron because of how aggressive the strategy is. And the fact that your leader lets you combo with a red-yellow card once per turn, you are basically not negging on these arrivals. You're just using your leader ability, then you're just paying the cost and putting this thing into play. We found 7 to be a pretty good number of blue yellows, and going off a list like Brian Samuels where he only played 7, it seems like a pretty acceptable ratio. You don't need it turn 1 in this deck. We do have a counterplay in Chomp the Trickster, but it's only really necessary in certain matchups. So even if you don't start with it turn 1, that's totally fine. You just charge a red, you play your Bulma and dealing Courage, and you're good to go. For the rest of the yellow lineup, we have SS3 Son Goku, the last straw, another aggro piece. Of course, if you want to start with the yellow turn 1 and play this guy, you can do that. This guy would be probably more necessary if Shenron was more popular, and that can always change. Shenron can dip back into the format, but the way it looks right now, Shenron is not going to be making as many waves as it was with full power world piece. That's just there to keep in mind. Then we have Son Goku Saiyan Instincts, excellent card with Beerus. Again, like same idea as my yellow Gohan deck. You pitch it with your leader to draw 2, and you draw 2 more on a turn where you have dead energy or where you just need answers. You just get there. And finally, like I said before, Chomp the Trickster. Just in the sideboard, I talked about After Image, and the SS Vegeta Exploited Weakness is a definite sideboard card you're going to want. You probably don't want it in the main deck, because I think the main goal of this deck is going to be aggro, so you're not always really going to leave 3 energy open. But against a matchup like U6 where they're also aggressing you and you don't have After Image in the main board, you're definitely going to want your After Image in the sideboard and your Super Saiyan Vegeta Exploiting Weakness in the sideboard. But overall, guys, this really does feel like one of the most powerful versions of a Fearless Pan aggro deck I can think of and that I've seen. So I really recommend picking it up if you like playing red, if you like playing aggro, and you want a little bit of a pivot to mid-range. I think this is the deck for you guys. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.